Hey horror fans, Bored now, back with you. On this video I'm going to be talking about the new horror movie Thanksgiving. So full spoilers from the start of this review, you have been warned. This is a new release out this week and it's the latest movie by Eli Roth. So we're getting like a rare horror Thanksgiving themed movie, so a little different on that one. And just to set things up a little bit, because I'm not a massive Eli Roth fan, I tend to fall on the side of it's too much too much torture porn for my liking. And I think ever since Cabin Fever, a lot of his movies have been disappointing, because I remember liking Cabin Fever, and one of the things I liked about Cabin Fever was it was clearly a guy who was in love with horror movies, who had grew up on them and understood the tropes, understood how to play with the tropes, but also do his own thing a little bit as well. And you could tell that he had a sense of how to direct a horror movie. So it's been a while since I've seen that one, but I remember that being a good debut. But ever since then, it just feels like, with like the Hostel movies and a couple of others, it's almost like his infantile mind has taken over a bit too much, and it has just fall into, well, in a way, these are no longer horror movies. They're just torture porn, just gratuitous for the sake of it, rather than because there's any real reason for them to be. And not proper horror movies, is the way I would say it. So this one had been getting some decent buzz. The setup for the movie is then we start on Thanksgiving night, which is 1 year before the events of the main movies, and you've got this main character of Jessica, whose parents own this store, and they're having like a Black Friday sale on Thanksgiving night, and we see, like, as you do in reality, you see like this massive crowd gathering around for the sales, and they're all kind of hyped up. And Jessica and a group of her friends, including her boyfriend at the time, are going to the store, and someone lets them pass. They manage to jump ahead in the queue and get ahead for like the sale and get inside, and this leads to like all sorts of chaos. Things get out of hand. There's almost like a very like exaggerated horror vibe to this scene as well. Like it's clearly like a satire on this kind of thing and the mania that can sometimes surround them, but it did feel like kind of an over-the-top horror scene as well, the way things transpire. And there's a cameo by Gina Gerson as like her mother, like the main girl's mother, and I thought, okay, that's nice. You don't see her in that much nowadays, and sadly she's not in much of the movie because she gets killed in the ruckus. So we then jump forward to 1 year later, and there's been a lot of controversy because of what happened that night. And it's like tapping into like internet culture and how these things can take on a life of their own and can be used for like likes and subs and that kind of thing. Because one of the characters, who's like a boyfriend of Abby, like the best friend of Jessica, he's like filming the chaos on his phone, and then there's other people who have filmed it, and it's gone viral, and it's led to all sorts of controversy. But the father and the mother have decided to like reopen the store against people's like wishes in some ways, and they're holding a special Thanksgiving event, and they've been trying to paper over the cracks by like giving jobs to people and, you know, creating some positive buzz, but there's still a lot of controversy around it. But when the horror plot really kicks in is that you get like a serial killer who appears in a Thanksgiving mask, and he starts going after people and taking people out, and it seems to be mostly the people who are linked to the events of that night and this group of character, Jessica's friends, and that becomes the focus of the film. So he clearly has like an agenda based on that night, and as we build to like the big set piece at the end, he's like preparing his own version of Thanksgiving almost. So that's the setup for the movie. And I would say I'm mostly positive on this one. I enjoyed it a lot more than some of Roth's movies. I think in this one he gets the right balance, where there are some like bad taste moments which seem to fit with him, but overall the vibe of the film is a lot more pulpy. And I think because of that it didn't feel like overly exploitative, and it didn't feel kind of gross, but for the sake of it. It just always had that very heightened pulpy sort of tone where you're not meant to be taking this stuff too seriously. And there was some fun hammy moments, like when the kill was revealed, and it's generally, I think it is quite tongue-in-cheek, and it's very like rough around the edges. And once again, I think it's dipping a bit into like some of his horror influence, or because there's a little bit of Scream in this, there's a little bit of like Hannibal because of this idea of like serving people up and like cannibalism. But there are some like standout, like gross out type kill scenes and moments of black comedy which I did enjoy. So overall the film was enjoyable to watch. Like, it was quite an easy watch. It was a little bit slow at first, I thought, because the stuff with the Black Friday stuff and the social media stuff, I find that a little bit lazy. Like, it seems like a lot of movies have been doing that, and it just feels a little bit overplayed, and I didn't find it that interesting. And that's probably my main complaint with the film, is then there's times where it doesn't feel, or I didn't feel the film was as clever or cutting edge as it's like trying to be, because although it's meant to be just like a fun nuts and bolts slasher in a way, there's definitely this side of it where it's trying to be quite edgy, and it's trying to like shine a spotlight on these real life things and just poke fun at them. And I didn't really think the satire was that sharp. I thought it was a bit obvious overall, and just like they've done this sort of stuff before. I think my other complaint is that some of the characters were bland and like interchangeable. Like, they didn't really have a lot of personality. And I'll say the final girl of the film, Jessica, was very good. I did like her a lot, and she was the one who I was like sort of rooting for, and I thought it was very likeable. And that's something where again he's gone back to traditional horror, where you do have this one final girl that you sort of root for, and the actress actually hasn't done that much. Like, I looked up her IMDb page, and she's only really done a few things. She's in a Disney show, apparently. Like, I thought I recognised her, but maybe she just looks like another actress I've seen in something. But I thought she was very good and very natural, and like, she was given quite a feisty, tough nature. And I think as the film goes on, it gets better because the characters are quite proactive in the way they work together and try to find out where this guy is going to strike next, like who he is potentially. And even though there's a bit of an exaggeration about like how brave they are and stuff, I think it works for like a horror movie. And just thinking about it, when it's revealed who the killer is, there's actually quite a nice touch that I questioned earlier in the movie about like how eager the law enforcement were to like use them as bait, because they decide that the only way maybe to get this guy is to like go about things as normal and go ahead with the parade and like try and lure him out type thing. And at the time I questioned that, but when it's revealed who the killer is, like that actually makes sense and works quite nicely. But the characters were hit and miss, and I know in a movie like this, like characters aren't always the most important, but you did have to like sit through a lot of them in the movie. And like the final girl, as I said, was quite good. Abby was quite good, the best friend, and apparently that's another actress who hasn't had a lot of experience because she comes from a singing background, so I thought she was pretty good considering. But yeah, some of the others were very bland and just felt like interchangeable. They also did that thing once again, like the Scream movies have done, where like it sort of presents this idea that the boyfriend could be the killer, because she's torn between these two guys who are both a little douchey. I think overall I prefer the boyfriend she's with at the start of the movie to the guy she ends up with, but they're kind of a little bit of a love triangle and like having a bit of a squabble over her. But it's one of these things where they do play up could either one of them be the killer, and that's just been done before. Not that it matters too much, but that was a little bit lazy. But overall, as I said, it's a very enjoyable, very watchable film with some satisfying horror moments and some good moments of like comedy, but mixed with horror, because like there's a scene where like this cheerleader is like doing a dance for her boyfriend and lures him out, and she's just doing this whole dance and he's already been killed and his head like turned around, and then she gets like her moment of, you know, gore as well. But so stuff like that there was some fun like visual set pieces like that, some good gross out moments. So just getting on to the reveal of who the killer is, and it does turn out to be Patrick Dempsey, who's like the town sheriff. And the motivation is a little bit like just whatever, because the motivation is because he was having an affair with the Gina Gerson character, and like she said she was going to leave her husband for him, so he's really pissed and they didn't get together because of the whole stunt, and like just blames the friends for like like Jessica and her group of friends for escalating it. And I'm not saying I saw it coming, but it got to a point in the finale as we were building up to the reveal, then I did predict what was going to happen, because it makes it look like it's Jessica's ex-boyfriend, because he like appears to be in like the attire. And then Patrick Dempsey's character comes along, or she finds him, like he's been laid out, or looks like he's been laid out anyway. And then he goes with her and she says, oh my God, it's whatever his name is. I forget his name. But so he goes inside and she's outside. She can hear all this kerfuffle and shooting. So I just guessed from that point it was going to be the Patrick Dempsey character, and that was going to be like a twist. And like, I think it plays out quite nicely when it happens, because he's very hammy and there's some great lines of dialogue, some nice little swerves, because I like the line that she has about, you didn't ask me what I was thankful for, and when he asks us, like, I'm thankful for how good this reception is, and it turns out she's been like live streaming the whole thing, so his thing is like busted type thing. And then he has a line about there's no seconds when he's going after her, and she puts that line back to him. So there's some fun like pantomime style lines like that. And I think Patrick Dempsey hamming it up is good fun, but the twist was a little bit obvious like, because it crossed my mind a little bit earlier in the film if it could be him, just because sometimes when they get big name actors like him in a movie like this, then they do go with that. They do play on that and make it a big thing where they turn out to be the villain, especially since you don't associate Patrick Dempsey with playing villains. Like, he does tend to play more clean-cut characters, so... But the way it played out was quite good fun. It's just then it got to a certain point and I twigged, yeah, that's probably where they're going to go. And they also do like this little fake out thing at the end where it makes it look like he could still be alive. Because, like, the main girl, Jessica, pretty much blows him up. But then they can't find any remains afterwards. And this one fireman comes out and she just looks at him funny. And it's a very similar thing that they do in that movie, The Guest, the one with Dan Stevens. So that's a whole thing in that one. The difference in that one is it makes it clear that the Dan Stevens character is still alive. But with this, you don't see who's under the helmet, so it's just one of those that makes you think he could be alive. And then there's a little bit of a fake out at the end because she's asleep in bed, and she then has she goes over to the closet and he appears out of nowhere, pulls her in, but then it turns out just to be a nightmare. So the ending again is a little bit cliched. But overall, yeah, enjoyable film. Definitely one of the better Eli Roth's films, in my opinion. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on Thanksgiving. I think I'll give it 6.5 out of 10. I'm not going to go high because it's not an amazing film, but definitely worth watching for horror fans, I would say. And like I said, one of the better Eli Roth's films, because I'm not really a big fan of him. But if you've seen the film, then let me know what you think in the comments. Like and subscribe once again. Share me out on social media. And support the channel monetarily on patreon.com/borednow, and you'll get early access to reviews like this. And speaking of holiday themed movies, but completely different, me and Rachel are doing the Home Alone movies this Christmas season. Yes, all 6 of them. So you can look forward to those reviews coming out over the next few weeks. The first movie is already up now, so you can check out that review. But yeah, keep checking back for more horror reviews, and thanks for listening. See you guys later.
Thanksgiving is a time for appreciation. It's a time to remember our many blessings, to celebrate with the ones that we love the most, and it's time for all families to be together. Let's eat.